His cows were vanishing without a trace. Garrett Holbrook stared at the fence line where 12 head of prime Angus had grazed yesterday morning. The wire was severed with surgical precision, yet the muddy ground around the opening showed no tire tracks. No boot prints, no hoof marks leading away. Nothing. In 30 years of ranching, he had never seen cattle disappear without leaving a single sign of their passage. The cut wire ends gleamed silver in the morning sun. Too perfect. Too precise. Stranger still, the ground beyond the fence showed signs of being swept or covered, as if someone had deliberately obscured any trace of the animal's passage over the rocky outcrop that connected to the county road. Behind him, his border collie Rex whined and circled, nose to the ground, finding no scent trail to follow. The dog's confusion mirrored his own. Cattle always left traces, always disturbed the earth, always marked their path with hoofprints and manure. That was the law of ranching. But this law had been broken. 3 weeks had passed since the first disappearance, and now 28 head were gone from the Broken Arrow Ranch. Each incident followed the same impossible pattern. Perfect fence cuts, missing cattle, zero evidence. The local sheriff had filed reports but offered no explanations that made sense. Insurance adjusters spoke in circles about livestock theft procedures, while Garrett watched his family's 4-generation legacy crumble with each vanished animal. The ranch stretched across 800 acres of prime Texas grassland, bordered by mesquite thickets and limestone hills that had sheltered Holbrook cattle since his great-grandfather settled here in 1924. Now the empty pastures mocked that heritage. Without the cattle, the bank would foreclose within months, despite the land's value and his pristine payment history over 2 decades. Garrett pulled his phone from his jacket pocket and scrolled through the contacts until he found Luna Chambers. He had met her 6 months ago at the county fair, where she demonstrated drone photography for agricultural surveys. Her modern approach to ranch management had impressed several local ranchers, though Garrett had dismissed it as unnecessary technology. Now desperate circumstances called for desperate measures. The phone rang twice before her voice answered, crisp and professional. Chambers Agricultural Solutions. Luna, this is Garrett Holbrook from the Broken Arrow. Remember me? We talked about your drone work at the county fair. Of course. How can I help you? Garrett watched Rex continue his fruitless search around the cut fence. I need someone to find my missing cattle. Traditional methods aren't working, and I'm running out of time and options. Luna's pause lasted long enough for him to wonder if she had hung up. Finally, she spoke. Missing cattle usually means rustlers. Have you contacted law enforcement? Sheriff's been out here 3 times. No evidence, no leads, no explanations. These animals are disappearing like they never existed. I need eyes in the sky. I can be there this afternoon. What's your location? Garrett provided directions and ended the call, hope stirring for the first time in weeks. As he walked back toward the ranch house, Rex suddenly stopped circling and stood rigid, ears perked toward the eastern pasture. In the distance, a dark sedan moved slowly along the fence line, too far away to identify but close enough to seem wrong. Visitors to the Broken Arrow always used the main entrance road. This car was clearly surveying his property from the boundary. The sedan accelerated when Garrett raised his hand to shade his eyes for a better look, disappearing behind a stand of oak trees. The timing felt deliberate, as if someone had been watching him discover the latest theft. Luna Chambers arrived at the Broken Arrow Ranch in a white pickup truck loaded with equipment cases and a sophisticated drone system mounted in the bed. She was younger than Garrett had remembered, perhaps 38, with short auburn hair and the focused intensity of someone who solved problems for a living. Her handshake was firm, her eyes sharp as she surveyed the ranch buildings and surrounding pastures. "Tell me exactly what you've lost and when," she said, pulling a tablet from her gear bag. "I need precise details to program the search parameters." Garrett walked her to the cut fence line where his cattle had vanished that morning. 28 head total over 3 weeks. 12 disappeared here today, 8 from the north pasture last Tuesday, and 8 more from the creek bottom 2 weeks ago. Always the same pattern. Luna knelt beside the severed wire, examining the precise cuts with a magnifying glass. "These edges are too smooth for bolt cutters. This looks like industrial wire cutting equipment, probably hydraulic, commercial grade. What kind of rustler uses hydraulic equipment?" "The kind with serious backing and resources." Luna stood and brushed dirt from her knees. "Standard cattle thieves work fast and sloppy. This is something else entirely." She returned to her truck and began assembling the drone. a sleek black unit with multiple cameras and sensors. This model has thermal imaging, night vision, and motion tracking capabilities. If your cattle are still in the area, we'll find them. Garrett watched her work with practiced efficiency, connecting tablets and testing camera feeds. How far can that thing see? 15-mile radius with these optics. We'll start with a grid search of your property, then expand to neighboring ranches and public land. Most stolen cattle are held nearby for a few days before transport to avoid immediate detection. The drone lifted off with a soft whirring sound, immediately climbing to 300 feet. Luna's tablet displayed multiple camera angles as she guided the aircraft over the empty pastures where his cattle had grazed. The thermal sensors showed the heat signatures of remaining animals in distant fields, but no trace of the missing herd. After an hour of systematic searching, Luna landed the drone near the fence line. Nothing on your property or the immediate area, but I'm picking up some interesting heat signatures about 2 miles northeast, on what looks like private land. That's the old Morrison place. Been vacant since the family sold out to developers 3 years ago. Luna's expression sharpened. Developers don't usually leave cattle on empty land. We should take a closer look. She launched the drone again, this time directing it toward the Morrison property. The tablet screen showed abandoned ranch buildings surrounded by high fences and overgrown pastures. As the drone approached, Luna adjusted the camera zoom and thermal settings. There, she said, pointing to the screen. Multiple heat signatures in that barn complex. At least 20 animals, maybe more. Garrett leaned closer to see the tablet display. The thermal imaging showed bright red and orange shapes clustered inside the largest barn structure. Those could be my cattle. We need to verify, but this is promising. However, there's something else. Luna manipulated the drone's position to get a better angle on the property. See those tire tracks leading to the barn? Fresh ruts in the mud, and they're wide enough for livestock trailers. The drone's camera captured clear images of recent vehicle activity around the barn complex. Multiple sets of tire tracks crisscrossed the muddy ground, suggesting regular traffic to the supposedly abandoned property. Someone's been very busy out there, Luna murmured, saving the footage to her hard drive. Luna maneuvered the drone closer to the Morrison barn complex, keeping it low enough for detailed surveillance, while maintaining a safe distance from the property boundaries. The high-definition cameras captured images that made Garrett's blood run cold. Those are definitely cattle in the barn, Luna said, adjusting the thermal imaging filters. But look at this infrastructure. Solar panels on the roof, new electrical wiring, and what appears to be refrigeration units. Someone's invested serious money in upgrading this facility. The drone footage revealed a sophisticated operation hidden behind the facade of an abandoned ranch. Heavy-duty livestock trailers were parked behind the main barn, their license plates too distant to read clearly. Fresh tire tracks led from the barn to a newly graded dirt road that connected to the county highway 2 miles away. This isn't some small-time rustling operation, Garrett said, studying the images. This looks like a processing facility. Luna nodded grimly. Industrial scale. They're not just stealing cattle, they're running a complete operation here. The question is how they're getting the animals from your ranch to this location without leaving tracks. She guided the drone in a wider circle around the property, documenting the entire facility. The thermal sensors detected multiple buildings with animal signatures, suggesting the operation was larger than initially apparent. A cluster of vehicles was parked near what appeared to be a mobile office trailer. There, Luna pointed to the screen as the drone captured movement near the vehicles. Someone's down there. 2 figures in work clothes emerged from the office trailer, too far away for facial identification, but clearly aware of ranch operations. One pointed toward the sky, apparently spotting the drone despite its quiet operation. We need to leave. Now, Luna said, immediately reversing the drone's course back toward the Broken Arrow Ranch. The flight back took 12 minutes, during which Luna saved all footage to multiple storage devices. As she landed the drone, Garrett noticed her hands were shaking slightly. In 20 years of agricultural surveying, I've never seen anything like this, she said, packing the equipment with urgent efficiency. This operation has millions of dollars invested in infrastructure. They're not just stealing random cattle. What do you mean? Luna pulled up the thermal footage on her tablet, replaying the images of animals in the barn complex. Look at the heat distribution patterns. These animals are segregated by size and probably breed. Someone's been very selective about what they're taking. Garrett felt a chill that had nothing to do with the afternoon wind. All my missing cattle were prime breeding animals, the best of my herd. Luna's jaw tightened as the implications became clear. They know exactly what they're stealing. Luna's tablet chimed with an incoming message notification. She glanced at the screen and her expression hardened. What is it? Text from an unknown number. Just coordinates and a time. Tonight, 11 p.m. Garrett read the message over her shoulder. The coordinates matched the location of the Morrison property they had just surveyed. They know we were watching, Luna said quietly. And they want us to come back tonight. Could be a trap. Probably is. But it might also be our only chance to get answers and recover your cattle before they disappear permanently. As they loaded the equipment into Luna's truck, Garrett noticed fresh tire tracks in the mud near his ranch entrance. Someone had been watching the property while they conducted their aerial surveillance, just as the morning's sedan had observed his discovery of the cut fence. Luna, we're not just dealing with cattle thieves. Someone's been monitoring every move we make. She followed his gaze to the tire tracks, then scanned the horizon with new wariness. Then we need to be very careful about tonight, because whoever sent that message knows exactly who we are and what we've discovered. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the empty pastures where Garrett's cattle should have been grazing, and somewhere in those shadows, unseen eyes continued watching their every move. Garrett spent the evening researching the Morrison property through county records and online databases. What he discovered made Luna's theory about professional backing seem conservative. The land had been purchased 18 months ago by Agricor Systems, a subsidiary of a larger corporation with offices in Dallas and Houston. The sale price was 3 times the property's assessed value. Look at this, he said, showing Luna the documents on his laptop as they sat in his ranch house kitchen. Agricor paid $2.7 million for land appraised at $900,000. Who pays triple market value for abandoned ranch property? Luna studied the purchase records while sipping coffee from a ceramic mug. Someone who needs the land for purposes that justify the premium. The question is, what kind of operation requires that level of investment and secrecy? She had returned to the ranch at sunset, bringing additional surveillance equipment and night vision cameras. Her pickup truck now resembled a mobile command center, loaded with monitoring devices and communication gear. I ran the license numbers from those trailers through my agricultural contacts, Luna continued. 3 of them are registered to livestock transport companies that operate across 6 states. Professional haulers, not local thieves. Garrett felt his anger building as the scope of the conspiracy became clear. They're stealing my cattle to order. Someone identified my herd, studied my patterns, and planned this theft down to the last detail. It gets worse. I traced the shell companies behind Agricor Systems. They're connected to a network of similar operations in Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, all targeting family ranches with premium breeding stock. The implications hit Garrett like a physical blow. His family's 4-generation heritage was being systematically dismantled by corporate raiders who viewed his cattle as inventory to be acquired through theft rather than honest purchase. Luna's phone buzzed with another message. The coordinates remained the same, but now included additional instructions. Come alone. No weapons, no law enforcement. You have 1 hour to decide. They're forcing our hand, Garrett said. Either we go tonight and risk walking into a trap, or we call the sheriff and they disappear all the evidence before morning. Luna packed her surveillance equipment into a backpack designed for covert operations. There's a third option. We go, but we go prepared. My drone has night vision capabilities and can transmit live footage to cloud storage. If something happens to us, the evidence will survive. As darkness settled over the ranch, they loaded additional equipment into Luna's truck. Garrett strapped on a vest-mounted camera that would record everything at ground level, while Luna's drone captured aerial footage. They would approach the Morrison property from 2 directions, maintaining radio contact throughout the operation. Remember, Luna said as they prepared to leave, we're gathering evidence, not confronting criminals. If we can document their operation and identify the people involved, law enforcement will have enough to shut down the entire network. Garrett nodded, but privately wondered if they were walking into a situation far more dangerous than simple cattle theft. The level of organization and resources suggested connections to serious money and influence. People with that much to lose might take extreme measures to protect their operation. At 10:30 p.m., they drove separate routes toward the Morrison property, their vehicle's headlights cutting through the Texas darkness as they headed toward an appointment that would either expose the truth or cost them everything. The Morrison property looked different at night. Security lights illuminated the barn complex, revealing activity that had been hidden during their afternoon surveillance. Luna parked her truck a quarter-mile away and launched the drone while Garrett approached on foot from the eastern boundary. Through his earpiece, Luna's voice provided running commentary as the drone captured footage of the operation below. Multiple vehicles active. I count 6 livestock trailers being loaded right now. They're moving fast, like they're preparing to clear out completely. Garrett crept closer to the fence line, his body camera recording everything as he gained visual contact with the barn complex. What he saw confirmed his worst fears about the scale of the operation. Teams of workers moved efficiently between the trailers and holding pens, loading cattle with the practiced precision of an industrial assembly line. Luna, these aren't just thieves. This is a complete livestock processing operation. They have veterinary stations, sorting chutes, and electronic tracking systems. This is how they're making my cattle disappear without leaving traces. The drone's night vision cameras revealed the horrifying scope of the conspiracy. Each animal was being processed through stations that removed identification tags, altered markings, and attached new tracking devices. The entire system was designed to erase the cattle's original ownership and create false documentation for sale through legitimate channels. Garrett, you need to see this. Luna's voice carried a note of urgency. The drone's picking up heat signatures from other buildings. There are cattle in at least 4 separate barn structures. We're looking at several hundred animals total. From his position near the fence, Garrett could see workers using hydraulic cutting tools to remove brand markings from cattle hides, then applying chemicals to alter the appearance of the wounds. Other teams operated portable branding equipment to create false ownership marks. The precision and speed suggested months of practice and specialized training. A figure emerged from the mobile office trailer, directing the loading operations with military efficiency. Even at a distance, Garrett could see the man wore expensive clothing and carried himself with the authority of someone accustomed to command. This was no common cattle rustler. Luna's voice crackled through the earpiece with alarm. Garrett, they've spotted the drone. 3 men with spotlights are tracking its position. We need to abort now. Before Garrett could respond, powerful floodlights illuminated his position along the fence line. Shouts erupted from the barn complex as workers pointed in his direction. Vehicle engines roared to life as the operation shifted from processing cattle to pursuing the intruders who had discovered their secret. Run, Luna commanded through the radio. They're sending vehicles to intercept you. Garrett sprinted back toward his truck, branches tearing at his clothing as he crashed through mesquite thickets in the darkness. Behind him, headlights swept across the landscape as multiple vehicles spread out to cut off his escape routes. The professional nature of their response confirmed what the evening's surveillance had revealed. This was not simple cattle theft. This was organized crime operating at a level that could destroy anyone who threatened to expose their operation. The drone footage had captured evidence of a conspiracy that reached far beyond missing cattle, revealing a network of corruption that made his family's ranch a target in a much larger and more dangerous game than he had ever imagined. Garrett reached his truck as headlights swept across the landscape behind him, the pursuing vehicles spreading out to cut off his escape routes. Luna's voice crackled through his earpiece with urgent instructions as she coordinated their retreat from her position a quarter-mile away. 3 vehicles moving to intercept you. Take the old cattle trail that runs along the creek bed. It's too narrow for their trucks. Garrett gunned his engine and swung toward the rocky path that wound through the mesquite thickets. His truck bounced violently over the uneven terrain, but the narrow trail forced the pursuing vehicles to follow in single file, negating their numerical advantage. Behind him, powerful engines roared in frustration as the professional hunters found themselves constrained by the same landscape that had sheltered Holbrook cattle for generations. Luna launched her drone again, using its night vision cameras to track the pursuit while simultaneously uploading the evening's footage to secure cloud servers. The drone recorded everything before they spotted it. We have evidence of the entire operation, including clear images of the processing equipment and vehicle license plates. The trail emerged onto County Road 12, where Garrett accelerated toward the ranch house with Luna, following in her truck from a parallel route. The pursuing vehicles had given up the chase, apparently unwilling to risk exposure on public roads where other drivers might witness their aggressive tactics. Back at the ranch house, Luna connected her equipment to Garrett's computer and began analyzing the night's footage. What they discovered exceeded even their worst expectations about the scope of the criminal operation. "Look at this thermal imaging sequence," Luna said, pointing to the screen. The drone captured the entire cattle processing workflow. They're not just stealing and reselling animals. They're running a complete identity alteration facility. The footage showed cattle being moved through multiple stations where workers systematically removed all traces of original ownership. Brand markings were chemically altered, ear tags were replaced with falsified documentation, and electronic tracking chips were surgically removed and replaced with clean devices linked to fabricated ownership records. This explains how they make cattle vanish without a trace, Garrett said, studying the images. They're not hiding the animals. They're creating entirely new identities for them. Luna highlighted sections of the footage, showing sophisticated veterinary equipment and computer systems. The level of technology investment suggests this operation processes thousands of animals annually. Your ranch is just one target in a much larger network. She pulled up additional footage from the drone's wide-angle camera, revealing the full extent of the facility. Multiple barn complexes housed different stages of the operation, from initial processing through final documentation. Refrigerated trucks waited to transport the altered cattle to legitimate markets where they would be sold with clean paperwork. We need to contact federal authorities, Luna said. This crosses state lines and involves interstate commerce fraud. The FBI has jurisdiction over operations this large. Garrett nodded, but his attention was focused on one particular image the drone had captured. In the background of the processing facility, partially hidden behind stacked equipment, stood a familiar figure directing the operation with obvious authority. Luna, enhance that section of the footage. The man near the sorting chutes. She adjusted the image resolution, bringing the distant figure into clearer focus. The face belonged to Marcus Westfield, the county commissioner who had been pushing local ranchers to sell their properties to agricultural development companies. The same man who had assured Garrett that law enforcement was doing everything possible to investigate the cattle thefts. The revelation hit them both simultaneously. This wasn't just organized crime operating in their county. This was corruption that reached into local government, with elected officials actively protecting the criminal operation while publicly pretending to investigate it. The discovery of Commissioner Westfield's involvement transformed their situation from criminal investigation to survival crisis. Luna immediately began copying the drone footage to multiple secure locations, while Garrett considered their rapidly shrinking options for seeking help through official channels. If Westfield is involved, we can't trust local law enforcement, Garrett said, pacing the ranch house kitchen. He influences sheriff department assignments and budget approvals. Any report we file could be intercepted or buried. Luna finished uploading the evidence to federal servers and turned to face him. We have enough documentation to expose the entire operation, but we need to stay alive long enough to testify. These people have millions of dollars invested in this facility and political connections to protect it. Her phone buzzed with an incoming call from an unknown number. Luna activated the speaker function, and Marcus Westfield's voice filled the kitchen with false friendliness and barely concealed threats. Ms. Chambers, I believe you and Mr. Holbrook had an eventful evening. I hope you understand that your investigation has uncovered sensitive agricultural research that requires discretion. Agricultural research? Luna's voice carried open skepticism. Is that what you call cattle theft and identity fraud? Westfield's laugh held no warmth. I call it economic development that benefits the entire county. Your interference threatens jobs and investment that our community desperately needs. Garrett stepped closer to the phone. Those are my animals you're stealing. Westfield, 4 generations of my family's breeding program. Your animals will be compensated at fair market value, Mr. Holbrook. In fact, I'm prepared to offer you triple the assessed value for your entire ranch. A generous proposal considering your current financial difficulties. The offer revealed the true scope of Westfield's plan. He wasn't just stealing cattle, he was systematically acquiring ranch properties to expand the processing operation. The thefts were designed to force ranchers into bankruptcy, making their land available for purchase at discounted prices. You're trying to steal our land, Garrett said. I'm offering economic opportunity. However, if you choose to decline my generous offer and continue this misguided investigation, I cannot guarantee your safety. Rural accidents happen frequently, especially to people who involve themselves in matters beyond their understanding. Luna ended the call and immediately began packing her equipment. We need to leave immediately. Westfield's people know where we are and they're probably already on their way. As if summoned by her words, vehicle headlights appeared on the ranch road, moving slowly toward the house with the deliberate pace of hunters who knew their prey had nowhere to run. Garrett counted at least 3 trucks approaching from different directions, coordinating to surround the property. "Back exit through the barn," Garrett said, grabbing the hard drives containing the drone footage. My truck's parked behind the equipment shed. They slipped out through the ranch house rear door as the approaching vehicles reached the main gate. Luna's surveillance equipment would have to be abandoned, but the critical evidence was safely stored on portable drives that could expose the entire conspiracy. The barn provided temporary concealment as they reached Garrett's truck, but the sound of vehicles surrounding the house confirmed that Westfield's people were conducting a thorough search. Voices carried across the ranch yard as teams spread out to check every building. "They're not just looking for us," Luna whispered. "They're searching for the evidence." Garrett started his truck and drove slowly toward the back pasture, using the barn as a shield between them and the searchers. The old cattle trail that had helped them escape earlier would serve as their route off the property, but they both knew that leaving the ranch meant abandoning everything Garrett's family had built over 4 generations. As they reached the trailhead, Garrett took one last look at the ranch house where his great-grandfather had raised cattle and built a legacy that now hung in the balance. The drone footage and Luna's hard drives represented their only chance to expose the truth and reclaim what had been stolen. But first they had to survive long enough to deliver that evidence to authorities who weren't corrupted by Westfield's influence. The FBI field office in Dallas received Luna's evidence package at 6 a.m., 3 hours after she and Garrett had fled the ranch. Agent Sarah Chen reviewed the drone footage with growing amazement at the sophistication of the criminal operation they had uncovered. "This is the largest livestock fraud operation we've documented in Texas," Agent Chen told them during their debriefing session. "Your footage shows multiple federal crimes, including interstate transportation of stolen property, fraud, and racketeering. We've been tracking Agricor systems for months without sufficient evidence." Within hours, federal agents coordinated simultaneous raids on the Morrison facility and Commissioner Westfield's offices. The drone footage provided precise locations for evidence collection, enabling agents to seize processing equipment, falsified documentation, and financial records that revealed the operation's true scope. At the Morrison facility, agents discovered over 400 cattle from 12 different ranches across 3 states. Each animal was being held in climate-controlled barns while undergoing identity alteration procedures that would have made them impossible to trace through conventional methods. Garrett accompanied the federal livestock specialists as they identified his missing cattle using DNA sampling and distinctive markings that the criminals had not yet altered. 26 of his 28 stolen animals were recovered alive and healthy, representing a financial recovery of over $200,000. Commissioner Westfield was arrested at his county office while attempting to destroy computer files containing communications with Agricor executives. The digital evidence revealed a corruption network that included livestock inspectors, transport company owners, and auction house managers who had facilitated the illegal cattle sales throughout the Southwest. The drone footage that Luna had captured became the centerpiece of the federal prosecution. The high-definition images showing cattle identity alteration procedures provided irrefutable proof of the conspiracy that had stolen millions of dollars worth of livestock from family ranches over the past 2 years. 6 months later, Garrett stood in the same pasture where his cattle had first vanished without a trace. His recovered herd grazed peacefully under the Texas sun, their numbers restored through insurance settlements and compensation from seized criminal assets. The Broken Arrow Ranch was not only financially secure, but had become stronger than ever. Luna had used her experience documenting the Agricor investigation to launch a specialized agricultural security consulting business. Her drone surveillance methods were now being adopted by ranchers throughout Texas to protect their livestock from similar criminal operations. Marcus Westfield received a federal sentence of 22 years in prison for racketeering, fraud, and conspiracy. Agricor Systems was dismantled completely, with its assets liquidated to compensate victim ranchers. The network of corrupt officials and accomplices faced their own prosecutions, ending the conspiracy that had threatened rural communities across multiple states. The terrifying truth that the drone footage had revealed was not supernatural or mystical, but something far more disturbing to rural America. Organized crime had infiltrated their communities through corruption and technology, stealing not just cattle but entire family legacies built over generations. Garrett's transformation from victim to champion of justice had saved not only his own ranch, but protected countless other families from losing their heritage to criminal conspiracy. The drone that had captured the evidence now served as a symbol of how modern technology could defend traditional ways of life against those who would steal them. Thank you for joining us for this story. Click on another video on your screen to enjoy more captivating Western tales that will keep you engaged until the very end. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to our channel and leaving a super chat to help us bring you more thrilling Western adventures.